thankful did not result in the loss of life. I want to express my appreciation to the mayors that are with me up here today for their cooperation and assistance and leadership and their dedication to public service and the citizens that they've been elected by. We've had the opportunity to meet with Fire Chief Scott McDonald this morning for TPC, and I have reviewed drone footage and thermal imagery of the site, and we are prepared to say that the fire is now in a contained status and great progress has been made over the last 12 hours, better than we had hoped. The fire is now down, isolated. All units that feed the fire have been isolated from the Unit 10 processing unit and the Block 5 spherical tank unit, and we are down to 9 fires, 3 of which are, well, they're all gas pressure fires, but 3 of them are being fed by in the Block 5 area of the spherical tanks. No additional fuel is being added, and none of the fires are impinging on any of the vessels in the plant. The initial failure of the vessels was due to a lack of fire water availability. We now have fire water restored. There was a vehicle who hit one of the hoses in the early morning hours and knocked it out for approximately 3 hours. That was restored about 30 minutes ago. And so we had a flow rate yesterday of 35,000 gallons a minute, or 50 million gallons a day. It's now down with the fires that are remaining to approximately 19,000 gallons a minute. And they're in a position with that fire water to prevent future failures. And I would highlight that they would not have people in the facility if they believed that there was going to be another failure. So, effective immediately, the evacuation order for the cities of Port Neches, Grove, and Nederland, and the other areas named in the original evacuation order is lifted. I want to make clear that no one is to approach the TPC plant. You can see from this map that's over here that there are areas that are going to be roadblocked off, and Chief Lemoyne and his law enforcement are going to be stringently enforcing that closure. Likewise, the county has in place through the Federal Aviation Administration a temporary flight restriction for a 2-mile radius around the TPC plant, so there should not be any drone operations in or near that plant. And I want to give the mayors an opportunity to speak, but before I do, I want to extend my thanks to our firefighters and law enforcement. They're the heroes in bringing about close to the end of this tragic event, and I'm deeply appreciative of them. Mayor.
Thank you, Judge. Glenn Johnson, Mayor of the City of Port Neches. First of all, I have to thank the Department of Public Safety, the state troopers, Sheriff's Department, Port Neches Fire Department, Port Neches Police Department, our public works people that have been out making sure the citizens are safe. I want to thank the citizens of the City of Port Neches for understanding how significant this was and complying with our request. And the most important thing for us is that there have been no major injuries, fatalities is what I'm talking about. And that's because everyone has worked so diligently. We just appreciate there's so many people to thank that you just can't thank them all. And of course, I got to thank TPC because they have kept us in the loop from the very beginning. Their priority has been the same as ours, and that is the safety of the personnel and the civilians and the citizens of our city. So I appreciate that. We're glad people are going to be able to come back to their homes, and maybe we can start getting things back to normal. I will reemphasize what the judge has said. This area is a restricted area, and I'm not asking, I'm telling you, people, stay away. No looky-loos. You don't need to be coming down to that area. You will be stopped and turned around. And if you start driving down to try to see the area, all you're doing is making it tougher for our first responders to move around and do the job that they're doing. So I'm not asking you to stay away from the restricted area. I'm telling you to stay away from the restricted area. So please, you've been so compliant with everything else I've requested. I appreciate your cooperation there. Again, thank you. And I want to thank the media for you getting this stuff out and making sure our citizens are well informed. We thank you.
I want to make a final point before I let either Mayor Albanese, Mayor Bailey, or Mayor Bartiz speak, and that's there was a pretty profound explosion that threw debris all over the city of Port Neches and maybe parts of Nederland and Port Arthur. As people return to their home, please survey your yard and its conditions. This facility was begun during the 40s. There was some asbestos, either blankets, pipe covering, or block that was installed. One of the vessels that was compromised and had an explosion could have blown that asbestos debris over the neighborhoods and into some yards. If you find upon your return to your home that there's a white chalky substance of any type or block or something that's a half-round pipe covering, please contact that number for the TPC helpline, which again is 866-601-5880, and report that. Do not touch it. They will come to your house and do air monitoring if you request it. So act with caution. Watch out for other metallic debris that might be in your yard. Call that number and report the presence of that debris so that they can attend to that. That's not something that our citizens need to be involved in dealing with. Mayor?
Thank you, Judge. I just want to reiterate first responders, excellent job. I've done this for 19 years, and TPC Group has been transparent, kept us in the loop, kept us at the forefront of what was going on, which made our decision-making a little bit easier. Industry, I don't know if many of you know about the Port Neches Chiefs Association, but extraordinary, and it was seen at the command center. Unified is the best word you could use, but I will say that this at a time of Thanksgiving, nobody was hurt, so thankful for that. But the Unified Command was something to be learned upon, and other people, other industries should actually mimic and learn from this, because it's extraordinary what those guys, how they work together. You see all the local fire departments, Huntsman, Motiva, Total. I'm sure I left somebody out, but those guys have done an extraordinary job of keeping our people and us safe, and that needs to be first and foremost. And there'll be lessons learned, I'm sure, but as a whole, I'd grade this as a very learning, solid event of some good leadership. So thank you guys, especially the first responders and the citizens for understanding. It wasn't an easy call. Mayor Monk, who was mayor here in Port Neches when I first was elected, mentioned that my first evacuation for a hurricane, and it was a dud. Hurricane didn't hit, and said you can be a hero or you can be a zero. So glad to be a zero. So anyway, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for all coming today. My name is Don Albanese. I'm mayor of Nederland. Myself and Mayor Barty are rookies. This is our first go-around with anything of this magnitude. Once again, these guys said it all, our first responders and all the fire department, our fire and our police departments responded. We got a little help from the Texas DPS, which sent about 30 troopers down. They also helped us. Want to thank them. They did a good job. Talk to my chief every day. No major incidents as far as security or anything is ever reported. So they did their job. And they did their job because the citizens They couldn't understand exactly why, with just a big plume of smoke, they had to leave. But when they found out what the magnitude of the fire and everything could have happened, that's why the judge and the emergency management team decided to go ahead and put this restriction on us. I'm glad we did. If that fire would have got into that tank form and with all the BDE, butadiene and stuff like that, it could have been a whole lot worse. But because of our people all doing their jobs well, our PD, our fire, and our police, we had a good rapport as far as the cities. No major accident, and the main thing, nobody hurt in the plants. With an event that size, you would have thought, I mean, if you could, I'm sure y'all seen that on TV and what have you. They had the fires of this great magnitude, and yet we got by with no incidents, and I'm grateful for that. So thank you guys very much, and I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Pardee.
Thank you, Mayor, and to our county judge. Well, I'm Thurman Barty, Mayor of the City of Port Arthur, and we're just thankful to God that there was no lost life, and want to thank all of our first responders who have worked real well, DPS, my chief of police, and staff from the City of Port Arthur. We have extended the use of our mobile response unit. That unit will be available, Judge, until you all don't need it anymore. It's out on 136, and any resources from the City of Port Arthur are available to help even in this right now. And if we're all going to work together in this part of Texas, in this region, and we have great retinue, I don't know if you all can see them, but police personnel, first responders in this room, and this is why we love calling Southeast Texas home, and more particularly Port Arthur, Texas. And there were areas that were affected. Those Port Arthurans who can hear me, we thank you for just responding to the request, and we want to remain consistent with the county judge. And when he called for the mandatory evacuation, which included northern areas of the city of Port Arthur, we immediately got on board, because we want all of our citizens to be safe. The main concern we have in Port Arthur now is air quality from TCEQ. As far as I have been informed, we are basically okay. Now, as time progresses, that if there are changes, and as soon as we know about those changes, we'll let you know. But we want to just thank Judge, mayors, and all of you media for being so responsive to the needs of being able to get out and put the information out to citizens. And everyone else who's returning home, those who did comply, you can return home with caution. And we thank even those who are able to contain this fire, because right now, ladies and gentlemen, there are individuals who are out there putting their lives on the line so that you all can return home. They're putting their lives on the line so that we can stand here in this room and declare that it is contained. So let's pray for those people and be sure that they are safe and everything goes well, and even in this refinery, that an end could be brought to this situation. Thank you.
TPC is going to continue their efforts to put the remaining fires out. Some of them, as we mentioned in the press conference yesterday, are gas pressure fires which need to burn out. Some of them may take a period of time. The thermal imaging gives them a view of the levels of materials that are in the tank, so that they're well aware of what they're dealing with. And so we're happy to put an end to this. I again want to thank the citizens of Jefferson County for being so resolute and cooperative during this very untimely event. And if you have any questions for anyone up here, we'll take those at this time.
Judge, you kind of touched on it, but is there any idea how long it's going to take before this fire's completely out?
Looking at the thermal imagery this morning, there are some tanks that are very low, and there's some that still have some material. So I can't give you an answer on that, but we are in a position to say it's contained, and that we feel comfortable with the efforts that have been made by our firefighters, and feel comfortable with the leadership of Fire Chief Scott McDonald.
Judge, I don't believe I see any mayors here in the room, but do you know if water quality testing will be ordered? Or
Water quality testing analysis is underway. Clean Harbor, which is a contractor, has been deployed for many hours now. They've got a couple of drainages over to the southeast of the plant that have a sheen on them. Water booms have been deployed, skimmers are out there, 4 boats are out there, and those operations, along with the testing, are ongoing.
I want to ask Mayor Barkley, Mayor, what concerns do you have as far as the air quality in Florida? The people have been talking about the air quality long before this incident here. And then secondly, have you talked with the refinery leaders in Port Arthur as far as what precautionary steps they're taking to avoid something like this?
Well, I haven't had an opportunity to speak with any of our industrial neighbors who are in our ETJ as of right now. But the concern that citizens had expressed to me was because of the smoke and if there would be any health issues that they would actually encounter. The only thing that I could tell them, if they felt sickened by what was going on, just to go to the nearest emergency room and get some form of treatment. But as far as the report that we've received from TCEQ is that according to state levels and federal levels and for human breathing, that we are okay.
Yeah, and I would remind you, I see that the Jefferson County is air quality attainment area. Our air is much cleaner than other parts of Texas. And, we've actually seen emissions reductions at most of the plants of like 77% in the last 15 years. So all of the air monitoring is going to continue. We've had nothing about the threshold limit values that are established by federal and state guidelines, and no exceedances that pose hazards to human health.
How long will that take? How long will you continue to do that air monitoring?
As long as there's smoke in the air, they're going to continue to do the air monitoring.
Will you continue to do it after?
Oh, they will. Troy, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Troy Monk, Director of Health, Safety, and Security with TPC. It is our focus to ensure that we get a solid grasp on the impacts of this event to the surrounding communities. As been stated, we are currently monitoring. That monitoring will continue, and it will continue until I'm most certain that we feel comfortable enough to say that the event has been resolved. I want to stress to the citizens as well as the rest of the officials here, we still have active fires. We are confident that the fires are contained, otherwise we would have not have taken the change in position that we currently have. So there's still going to be smoke in the air. There's still going to be flames visible at night. That is going to be addressed as quickly and as safely as we possibly can. The question was raised earlier on how long. I would love to tell you that we are going to be done by the end of the day. I would not be telling you the truth if I made that statement. It is very difficult for us to quantify in days how long this is going to take. We had a setback today just due to fog and the inability to actually allow our responders in and be able to see what they're doing. Tomorrow, we have weather predicted. That may very well also impact our ability to respond as quickly, efficiently, and safely as possible. We ask for your patience. We are doing everything we can to address this issue as quickly as we can, and we will remain diligent in our efforts to keep everyone informed of what's going on, as well as monitoring impacts to the community. Thank you.
And I would also mention that at the Emergency Operations Center, we've said the Unified Command has a severe weather plan for the anticipated showers or thunderstorms that are due later tonight or early tomorrow, and that will be executed upon.
Would the storms help? The rainfall, could that help the fire?
With gas pressure fires, you don't want to douse it out, you want it to burn out.
Do you have any information for the residents of Port Neches? I know that they
That's my anticipation.
Mayor, I don't know I'm sorry if I missed it, as far as with the lifting of the mandatory evacuation, is the curfew lifted as well? And if that's the case, any recommendations as far as, I'm sure a lot of people are hearing this and are rushing back, and obviously you want it in an orderly, but just how do you prepare for the influx? Will there be officers around to prepare for that influx of folks as they stream into town?
Well, you've already noticed there have been plenty of officers on the streets of Port Neches, which I appreciate so much. I could not drive down the street yesterday at all without encountering the state, the county, or one of our own officers in their vehicles. I don't expect an onrush. To answer your question, the curfew will be lifted so that people can get back into their homes. I expect them to act responsibly. Again, I emphasize, stay away from the restricted area. There's a reason it's restricted. And so I don't anticipate any problems that I can foresee.
Now, the purpose of the curfew was to assure that our law enforcement had the tools that were necessary to prevent looting. And once the people are back in their homes, we won't have those concerns about looting.
Either mayor or judge, did most people here today, did they evacuate for the most part?
I noticed that the streets seemed mighty empty in all the impacted cities.
Is there any word on the schools that were impacted, and reconstruction is underway for those?
Superintendent is here, and he could give you a better idea. You want to come up here? Superintendent Gonzalez can. Pardon me?
Are there any residences in the restricted areas?
There are some residences that are over off where the chief of police lives in this area. They're going to be required to show their identification to law enforcement that will be stationed at those areas. Am I saying that right, Chief?
Not quite.
Okay, tell me about it.
I think the question was, are there residents that land inside that quarter-mile restricted area?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so what the judge was alluding to was, there's some residents over where I live in Little Abbeville that's gonna have limited access to be manned by the Texas Highway Patrol and some other people there, where they have to have the proper ID to be able to access that. Because that could impact some of the water flow that they're getting from the river to do the cooling with the equipment lying across the road. Clean Harbors at two of the roads in there, so it's gonna be highly restricted for entry, other than the people that live there.
Thank you.
Talking about overall, this is the actual fire incident area. This is all the barricades you see on these perimeters as access in. But basically, the immediate restrictions on that refinery on this incident was going to be a quarter-mile. It's going to be actually much larger, but there's really no houses inside the restricted area as far as the fire incident is concerned.
Okay, you want to address the impacts to the schools?
We've had a few schools that have been impacted by the blast, and we currently have our team working on the campuses. We believe that we will get our schools back in working condition before Monday. Some of you do know, I think I sent that message out, we did cancel school for Monday, and if we feel like hopefully we can get the kids back before then or after Monday, you know, we'll definitely notify the community. Other than that, I think that we should be ready to go as soon as they clear us.
Like, you have how many workers over there?
We have over 100 workers,
Well, that was 150 in
about 150 workers, you know, repairing our campuses and cleaning up some of the messes that we have at these campuses. But other than that, I think that we're okay. We just want to make sure that our kids are safe. We want to make sure that our buildings are structurally sound. So other than that, I think that we're ready to go.
Thank you. The curfews will be lifted.
Judge, do you guys have a better idea of what the cause of the initial explosions are yet? Or
No, I'm sure that federal and state industrial investigative agencies will be coming here to work in tandem with TBC to investigate the cause, and it may be several months before we have any idea.
What about the chemicals that continue to burn? Do you guys have a better idea what that is right now? Is it still?
They know that. You know, we know what feedstocks are in there, and they know which ones are burning now. So, but I don't have that list with me.
John, when you say that it's contained, are you guys confident enough to say that you don't anticipate any other explosion, or is that something that you can't really?
Yeah, if we anticipated another explosion, we would not be lifting this evacuation order. So
There would be large or small explosions, though, correct?
That's correct. With the fire water on it, there should be no failures.
Rifles, they don't appear to have exterior damage to their homes, so call the TPC hotline or their insurance adjuster.
I would call the TPC hotline first, but out of an abundance of caution, since most insurance policies have notice periods, I would go ahead and notify the insurance company of the loss, and then await TPC's response to it.
Could there be a possible response if they do find asbestos on their homes or are worried about the air quality?
Yes, absolutely contact TPC if they see any substance that appears, any kind of white or beige substance that appears to be asbestos. Some of it's very chalky substance, and some of it's in thick blanket form, some of it's in block form. But if they have any suspicions of any materials that weren't on their house or around their house or in their yard before the explosion occurred, they need to call that hotline and get TPC to come out there and analyze it. There are already air sampling that had started yesterday of the air for friable asbestos fibers. Those tests have been sent to the laboratory. We anticipate those results towards the end of the day.
Is there going to be any kind of deadline for doing any home damage? For example, if somebody finds out you want to come out, they're going to have damage to the foundation that wasn't legal.
Yeah, I think the timelines are only going to be the statute of limitations that are contained within the Texas Civil Practice and Remedies Code, either 2 or 4 years, whether it's a tort or a contract.
Troy, I know we've heard of the 3 injured that were minor injuries, but I was just wanting to check, just overall, what can you tell us about the staff, the workers, the employees there, their status right now, how they are doing, not so much with injury, but just with the situation going on and how they're faring with all this and their status job-wise?
Boy, are we tired. Events like this run 24/7, and I will tell you, I appreciate everyone's help that has been involved in this process. I stated yesterday this would not have been possible and could have gotten away from us a lot quicker without the assistance of everyone involved. That's local, county, state, federal. Response agencies and personnel that have come in and helped us remedy this situation. Long hours, spirits are up. I'll tell you, every one of us are working towards a common goal for you guys and for ourselves, and that's to put an end to this event. There are, outside of probably just bloodshot eyes and a lot of yawns, our spirits are up, and we're very, very happy with the progress that we've made to date. And I hope the next time that we have a media statement or another press briefing like this, we can continue to report even further positive news that we're making progress towards closure of this event.
And I again want to express my appreciation to Governor Abbott, to Executive Director Toby Baker at TCEQ, mistakenly called Toby Bush yesterday in the press conference, and to Chief Nim Kidd at the Texas Division of Emergency Management. They've been extremely supportive during this time. Maybe we'll,
Mr. Monk, any idea how many calls the hotline has taken or how many claims have been filed?
I don't have an exact number. The last number that I heard, which was probably within the first day that we posted the hotline, we actually overwhelmed the hotline. There were some issues immediately with no one's answering, and that was simply because We underestimated the number of calls to come in as quickly as what they did. We certainly rectified that and put more operators on the event. For those that did call and did not get an opportunity to actually speak to somebody personally, the contract service company that we're using for that actually has a callback system. So they would track you down just by the number that you called from, so that we can ensure that we follow up with every individual that has called the hotline and is seeking our assistance.
Any idea about the number of claims?
I have absolutely no idea on the numbers. Again, like I said, it was an overwhelming number at first. I'm sure that the numbers will continue to come in. We'll continue to manage them appropriately.
What about the debris that doesn't have that white chalky substance? Is it okay for people to remove that from their yards?
You may
and
take
keep
it.
in place?
Yeah, I'll take it. Any debris or any suspected debris needs to be left alone. There is a concern, as the judge alluded to, around what asbestos would look or feel like to you. But any debris that you have is potentially contaminated debris. And there's two issues. One, we don't want anyone that's not qualified to remove that material to remove it and expose themselves. And two, this debris, if it is contaminated, has to be disposed of properly and cannot go in a normal landfill. So I encourage the citizens of the area that are impacted, if you suspect that you have foreign material in your yards, to leave it be, to report that into the call-in number, and we will respond accordingly, test it, remove it, and dispose of it properly.
Yeah, I want to, we have incident action plans in place for this whole event at the EOT. And part of that incident action plan is that they have hired debris removal contractors that are trained in disposing of potentially hazardous materials. And we want to make sure that people that are trained in that are the ones who accomplish it.
What about, since a lot of people have their windows busted out and they were open before they got boarded up, is that asbestos to get inside the home?
I would suppose that if their windows are broken, that's a potential. But if they notice anything either without or within their home, they should report it and have it looked at. And again, as I said, they have volunteered to conduct testing to come to people's homes should they so desire.
Do you know how long it might take if people were to call that number before that debris is removed from their homes?
I would imagine that they would respond expeditiously, and that would be a top-tier priority for them. All right. If there's nothing further, thank you for being here today. Thank you for what you've done to keep the public informed, and thank you for technology that has allowed individuals that may have evacuated to other areas to access that information through that venue. We appreciate you, and we appreciate our firefighters and law enforcement. Thank you. Thank you.